we are back for Autonomous Humanity number 34. Wow. Just Jim and I today, not that we need anyone else, but there is one video I would like to get to and maybe spend most of the time covering. I ended up getting recommended this video with Donald Trump from his time on The Apprentice, where I guess each episode he would give a tip for success, right? Yeah. And I think you might have seen this. I sent it over to you, so we both know roughly what we're getting into, but not that I think we'll agree with all of them. I think there were a lot of points that he made that are hard to disagree with, but some there's certainly more nuance that I would be interested in hearing your thoughts, and maybe we can provide a little bit of our commentary for the. And
also wanted to get some feedback from you as to what's going on with iVue right now.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about what's happening with your company?
Yes.
A lot of exciting stuff.
Yeah. So like I just mentioned to you before we got started, we got our Develop-Air order number 39. So a Develop-Air Mini. This is our base model Develop-Air here. So to give you
is this the Mini here?
So this is actually the Micro. This is actually a preview. We also got this up and running for the 4th time ever. Its first ever completely successful flight, being able to fly it with a game controller, being able to use our software to fly it autonomously. So basically tell it to take off, upload waypoints to it, setting points on the map to have it fly to. I was able to do all that. So if not by the end of this month, we're in February 2026. By the end of March, we'll have this actually productized and start selling. Don't know exactly what's going to come in the kit yet as far as which case, which controller, battery, and battery charger. We're still working out some of those specifics, but we're targeting a launch price of $699, which will, I think, make Develop-Air Micro our most popular Develop-Air model yet, and it won't even really be close.
So talk about you have an Army client,
yes,
tied to the U.S. Army. What was go over that?
How'd that come about?
Yeah.
So
and where you are right now with it, because you had alluded that you guys are getting ready to.
Yeah, we're in the processing phase. We're in the processing phase of dealing with the Army. So. Giving a little bit more context that also ties up what I was just mentioning with our Develop-Air order number 39. So this is our Develop-Air Mini. So you can see right about a middle point between our large Develop-Air model or our base Develop-Air model that can carry a 3-pound payload. Our Develop-Air Mini can carry a 1.5-pound payload, and our Develop-Air Micro can carry a 0.5-pound payload. And so we originally designed the Develop-Air Mini back in 2024, mid to late 2024, after we had a lot of interest for Develop-Air, especially within the educational environment, but oftentimes within educational environments, they have very limited space to work with to have students operate the drones. Oftentimes they want to be able to operate their drones inside the classroom, or if not inside the classroom, maybe the indoor gym that they have at the school. And then even more so, a lot of schools, middle schools, high schools, will have students that compete in various extracurricular robotics competitions. So a couple popular ones around here are called VEX and FRC, First Robotics Competition. And then there's our customer, Streamworks. They have their own They have their own competition called Robot Drone League, or RDL. And so Streamworks, they are a nonprofit organization hosting these competitions, predominantly for schools with student teams within rural Appalachia. So they may not have the same access to resources that a lot of the nicer schools around here have access to, right? Big budgets and sponsors from nearby companies. And so all of these student teams are, working with very little mentorship, coaching, and, even just access to capital. And they have to build or buy their own drone and robot. So there's a ground-based rover sort of robot, one with wheels or a track, almost like a tank, that they have to build. And then they also have to build a drone or buy one off the shelf. And then they have to modify both of the robot and the drone to complete a series of challenges within a 10-minute competition. And this playing field, I don't know the exact dimensions, maybe 20 foot by 20 foot, maybe 10 foot by 10 foot. but not a huge space. And so while we made Develop Air Mini so it can fly indoors more easily than our larger Develop Air models, it's still for the competition environment that the students had to use them within are just slightly too big and unwieldy to really be used effectively. So kind of long story medium now, Streamworks, they had bought 10 of our Develop Air Mini to resell to various student teams to compete in their competition. After getting some feedback, they're like, all right, this again, technically speaking works, but it'd really be nice if there's even a smaller model. And that's the impetus of the micro. Given like we always realize that there's opportunity for a smaller, more affordable development drone. That is kind of like Streamworks, our customers, like big desire. But they running this competition for rural Appalachia, schools. They got a lot of interest from the Army, specifically through the JROTC, where now the Army wanted to create 10 JROTC teams to compete in the this Robot Drone League competition. And the Army created a sole source contract for Streamworks. So basically, we want to buy all of the field equipment, all of the kits and accessories that are required to get 10 of our JROTC teams off the ground, which the contract was, about $140,000, something along those lines for all of that equipment. And the day that Streamworks goes to get the contract, the Army realizes they can't actually award it to Streamworks because they're a nonprofit and the contract was set up to be awarded to a small business. And so that's how we come into the picture, having this relationship that we have built out through Streamworks buying 10 of our Develop Air Mini, interest in the Develop Air Micro. We've worked with them from a animation video production standpoint as well. So
classic example of the relationship.
Exactly.
You're just continuing to reach out and push and whatnot, and people that you wind up doing business with turns into more business, more doors open. Go ahead.
And couldn't have put it better myself, where this was really, I think, the first big opportunity that we've had where it wasn't for a product or service that we could provide, but really just the relationship building. I had dedicated time to building, or cultivating over the last few years.
And last thing, it all is exponential. Because, all these relationships, they meet other people. So all of a sudden it'll start to, that's been in my experience, it'll start moving faster and faster because it's like pyramid thing, right? More and more people out there, and it's all continues to grow if it's good. So anyway.
Well, and that's exactly what's happened here with getting this Army contract as the prime contractor. So our name was on the contract. We delivered on the contract. Now, given Streamworks, they did like all of the legwork, and we put ourselves in. I put ourselves in a financially precarious position to help make sure that they could deliver on the contract. Because there's actual assets that needed to be purchased and then delivered. And so we're not getting paid until after the contract is delivered. So we're going out on our line of credit and helping our customer but any case, the Army pays us, and this is mid-December of last year here, 2025. And then a few hours later in the morning, I get an email from another group in the Army that I had reached out to back in July of last year, 2025. And as I had mentioned to you, this is right around the time I'd also reached out to Jeff Bezos with a business proposal. And along that proposal, at the time, Pete Hegseth, now head of the Department of War, secretary, of the Department of War, I think the official position, but in any case, he made an announcement that they're looking to field as many low-cost, repairable, modifiable drones as they can get their hands on. And they put out what's called a sources sought. They just want to see anyone and everyone who's out there that has the potential to produce a low-cost, repairable, modifiable drone or is already producing low-cost, repairable, modifiable drones. And I saw that. I was like, holy shit, they're asking for a developer and everything but by name, right? So I work with a grant writer that we've worked with previously.
Local guy? Or it's
local lady, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's a person here in Atlanta?
Yeah. And
awesome.
again, just building relationships.
So this is for federal grant?
Yeah, for a federal grant. Yeah.
And you unlock that?
Yeah. So,
I mean, they probably have grants for entrepreneur startup, or grants specifically for.
So this is a contract. So this would not be like a grant in the sense of like, hey, here's money to develop whatever. Here's money. You are going to deliver this product that we want. So it's literally a sale. And now there could be a part of this sole sources solicitation they put out there. They part of the questioning was, what's your ability to produce your drone product? And if you don't have the ability to produce them at the scale that we want, would you be open to working with third-party manufacturers that we could even bring to the table? And I think there's a part of that where
they could bring to the table.
Right. Or there is, I think, even a part of it where like they would fund the scale up of production if it was, a product that they were interested in. So
let me ask you this question. Yeah. I don't want to jump ahead, but
go for
are
it.
You going to be in a position at some point is the goal to buy a building or get in a building and have a
full-time
manufacturing plant.
operation? Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're going to be making hardware here.
Yes.
You're going to be hiring a lot of people.
Yes. Again, and this seems like kind of crazy, and this gets into a point I want to make with Trump's tips for success, where people, especially in real estate, all about location, and location absolutely does have a profound impact on the opportunity you have available to you. Right. Like for instance, 7-8 years ago, had I gone out to Silicon Valley to, start iVue, probably could have raised a lot more capital than we have. And we would definitely be at a different spot. Whether it's, better or not, that's arguable. But I really like to think that, and I guess in the way that Trump put it, I agree where location matters, but he would much rather deal with someone competent in a bad location than someone incompetent in a great location, right? And as much as you do get like the great success stories in Silicon Valley, it also is so much easier and so much more common to have, knuckleheads or whatever that don't know what they're doing blow through millions of dollars of capital and have nothing to show for it.
Buffett feels the same way.
I think he is a perfect example.
Yeah. Buffett is the same. Buffett puts so much emphasis on the quality of the management, the leadership.
Yep.
And, Berkshire Hathaway, they've purchased companies that they haven't even been on site to see, which kind of is surprising. But let me tell you, they did their homework. You better believe it. And this is the thing with Berkshire Hathaway now. They're about buying companies now. And one of the things, I think I may have mentioned this in other podcasts or when we've had discussions, a lot of holding companies or whatever, they'll buy a company and then they go in and fire everybody, right? And then they try to tell them how to manage, and they bring in new management. Buffett, they don't do that. They supply the cash that companies need the help to go to the next level. And they have total confidence in the management. He said the last thing we want to do is for us to now go in and tell these guys how to run their business. No, they know what the hell they're doing.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have bought into it.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have bought them. They just need the cash to help take them to the next level. That's why Berkshire Hathaway, I think it's like 70 or 75 companies that they own.
Yep.
Berkshire Hathaway. If you want to buy stock, BRKB. That's B-class shares. A-class shares, I think, are
hundreds of thousands,
$200,000-$300,000 a share.
Yep.
They don't pay a dividend. Well, they've never paid a dividend, but and that's one of the reasons why the stock price has gotten so high. But Berkshire B-class shares are trading at right about, I think, $500 a share now. I think it's about right. But anyway,
perfect example though of like
to tie into what you're saying. If you the thing and I don't want to segue into politics just yet, but Trump, if you work for Trump, in my opinion, you're going to be on the game. I mean, you're not going to sit around. You're going to work your ass off.
Yeah.
And competency with people that he brings in, I feel that it's strong. I think it's strong. And I'm just trying to wrap this around to what you were saying, that it's not just about location.
Right.
You got to have the right people in the job.
Yeah, and I do want to just finish up that thought with
sorry
the
about that.
No. I like it because I was listening to a podcast with Brian yesterday. I don't know how much he was paying attention to it, but they were talking about Trump's cabinet, not even just cabinet members, but people hired as part of his administration that, let's say, looking to go through the Epstein files, as for instance. And supposedly, I don't know this, that it's true, but they're talking about one of the files in particular, or maybe a folder of files or whatever, all specifically had the word "don't" retracted from it. Or redacted from, because it's Don T. So they were looking to scrub Don T from every mention in this file. And so they ended up accidentally just redacting the word "don't" a bunch of times as well. It's like, why is "don't" redacted so much? Oh, because they're trying to find every instance of Don T being mentioned across all these documents. And so they were basically just talking about this is happening because of the lack of competency, right? Where first and foremost, Trump, and rightfully so, is looking for people he can trust. And just because they're people that you can trust doesn't necessarily make them competent in what you need them to do, right? And so I thought that was fairly interesting. And I think that's the case, in any organization, right? No one's perfect, right? To put it bluntly. Right.
We're flawed. We're humans. So.
Yeah. And so it's like, where do you draw the line of what, considering someone incompetent or just making a very, understandable, mistake? And, it really often comes down to, well, how do you think about, the politician, from a political standpoint, right? Are you like totally anti-Trump in everything that he does and never looking to give him, the benefit of the doubt? Or are you like totally on the spectrum that Trump can do no wrong? Or are you like somewhere, in between, right?
So can we wrap back around?
Yeah, wrapping back up to location.
Let's go back to iVue. And
and this wraps it back up to iVue, where longer term, and even in the shorter term, as much as we can help it, what we really need help with to unlock, like one of the opportunities that we've had come across our plate is a customer looking for 400 drones a semester. Currently using a Chinese supplier buying drone kits. The Chinese supplier makes a lot of the components that we use in our current Develop Air products. And so they cannot, or will not, cannot, kind of one and the same in this case, switch over to us, or really anyone for that matter, that doesn't have the manufacturing capability already built out. Now, one of the problems, especially in the Atlanta tech space, that we've talked with people like Dennis Hayes about, Sig Mosley about, that also
I don't think those guys would be, at this point, they're going to start wanting to kick some cash to you to get it going.
I don't, so with Dennis Hayes, I don't think he is in a position to be like actively making those sorts of investments. Sig Mosley,
his age too. I mean, Dennis is the modem.
Yes,
the modem guy. He's blind, right? Yes. Essentially, yes. Yeah, and at his age and stage in life, I don't know that he's really wanting to jump in that. But
and Sig Mosley, same sort of deal. Like I had already heard about this, that he's backed off. He's not doing any investments through his own company, his own investment firm. But even beyond that, just all of the Atlanta tech space has been built around enterprise software as a service, and we're just so far outside of what they know and are comfortable with, are familiar with, want to make investments in, where they could actually provide help outside of just writing a check. And again, the reality is, I'm the head of this ship, right? And I am not the most polished, person. Don't have, I have very rough edges.
You need to cut your hair, boy.
Actually, on one of our recent test flight videos, someone's like, who's going to take you seriously with hair like that? Because it was super windy.
A techno guy, though, I mean, come on. No one.
And it's like, if you're not going to take me seriously for, my hair being long,
I know.
It's not going to work out working with you anyway. But what I would like to finish up in the location, tying it about to the work, scaling up our manufacturing operations. Really, if like by the time I die, if we don't have Atlanta looking like the automotive hub that Henry Ford made Detroit look out to be, by the time he passed away, I failed in life. Like, I really think Atlanta, especially this part of North Metro Atlanta, I think, of course, just iVue alone could have that effect, but I think even just us being here, scaling up will attract other companies also in the drone space to make Atlanta.
Your kind of big blueprint picture in the future is 20, 30 years from now, you want to see this area be known.
Not just as the aviation hub, right, but the unmanned aviation hub.
Unmanned aviation hub in this country.
Yeah. And again, even though we're starting with unmanned aviation, that's still even a part of it, because actually the very first hardware product I wanted to make back when I was at MTSU was a ground-based modular drone for the home and office. And we're still working towards that. But I think there's a lot more opportunity here now in the short term, over the next 5 to 10 years, in the mid to long term as well, in the aerial drone space, because there's a lot more flexibility when you're operating out and about in the public space versus you're operating in someone's home if something goes awry. And obviously there's still a lot of problems that can happen out and about in public that can be very catastrophic, but I think it's a whole other issue when you're inside someone's home and your robot all of a sudden causes harm to someone inside their home itself, or, their belongings, let alone, all the data that, hey, it's one thing my drone's going and collecting data outside my home, outside my neighborhood.
You've got laws and all kind of regulations too in the future that's coming.
Or here that are already preventing this.
Now, but there's going to be more and more.
Right.
I hear people talk about, well, this is, I've heard some female person that I know talk about, there's going to be drones flying all over the place, and people are going to be, you're going to have to worry about, what's flying overhead, and, No,
you're going to be inside watching Netflix and, having your drone bring your food to you. But so that's all to say. I think with the scaling up the manufacturing here in Atlanta, we should have very similar impact to what Henry Ford and the Ford Automotive Company had on building up Detroit.
So where do you see, if you could, this is crystal ball, okay, and it might be, try to be as realistic as you can, because I know people have a tendency to want to, this is what I'd love to see, but what do you think 2 years from now, what's the picture what's iVue going to look like in 2 years?
I'll give you two different realistic pictures, just because up to this date I've raised $270,000 of capital for the company, and pretty much those three instances I raised $100,000, then $150,000, and then $150,000 and then $20,000. Didn't really think any of those would come through until they were pretty much there, right? And
these guys are still involved.
Yes, and I think
they're on the board, or they're investors,
equity holders. Yeah,
okay.
And right now, technically speaking, I am the only board of directors member of iVue. But now we have board of advisors, and I go meet with all of our advisors, talk with our investors, of course, very regularly talk with every team member, especially our leadership team. And so it's just from a legality standpoint, one, you need to actually have a set board of directors, and then two, just from kind of being a fly-by-night sort of operation, we don't want to introduce extra unnecessary complexity, having a more formalized board than what's absolutely required at this time. But that's why I'm the only board of directors member, formally speaking. And then where was I before?
So 2 years.
2 years. Yeah. Thank you. I mentioned the fundraising because really what we're working towards is really a 3-year endeavor right now as far as our short-term focus, and that's getting OmniBot Air to market. So we have our Develop Air product line that was never actually meant to be a product. It was just, we can actually sell our own development platform that we're using to develop our own drone control software, to prove out concepts for all the different payloads that we want to have standardized for our prosumer drone product, OmniBot Air, as well as also verifying out all the components that work well across Develop Air, the mechanical designs that hold up to stress testing in flight, and take all of what we learn into a prosumer grade product that with Develop Air, if you want to fly with a camera, a deployment mechanism, a dispenser, any number of different sorts of payloads or attachments that you want to equip it with, you have to be technically savvy and have some sort of understanding of how to configure or set up that device, right? And we want to make it where if you want to attach a parachute to your drone, a camera to your drone, a cargo container, a sprayer, any of these sort of attachments, you just plug it in like you plug in a USB device to your computer. And that's 18 months if we were to raise our seed round of $2 million, or at least like one of our investors right now has committed another $350,000 with the lead investment from a VC firm coming in to lead our seed round. So that would basically be, we need to find a lead investor of $500,000 or more, and then we'll have $850,000 of our $2 million seed round spoken for.
All right.
And that would allow us to really
and the details, I appreciate them, and but it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Can I bring you back to the big picture 2 to 3 years from now?
2-3 years from now, we have our first real drone product in the market that we're just starting to ramp up to start producing thousands, if not tens of thousands of. And if not, we're just getting to the late stages of prototyping of that same product, but we'll continue having to build them to order by and large in the same way we're building develop air to order right now, but maybe in the dozens of units we can manufacture versus literally just like 1 or 2 at a time, unless like when we got an order for 10 develop air mini, we had like a 3-month lead time to be able to do that.
Let's go 5 years, 2032.
2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. So in 5 years, 2032, do you feel that if things go the way you hope they go, will you have
we should at least have like
a manufacturing base?
We should have at least a small manufacturing base producing thousands of units a year.
30 employees, 50 employees,
yeah.
30.
I mean, full time, somewhere in that nature. Yeah, because I mean, technically speaking, again, not employees, but team members, we're already about that. But it's again, Brian and I full time. Everyone else, including our R&D team making our products, are part-time, So, I mean, it really is as much as we can, bootstrapping to get to where we need to be, bring OmniBot Air to market. And that's going to be more of like a 3-year time frame from where we're at now versus we can speed that up to about 18 months with an injection of capital. And then from there, it's about another 6 to 12 months to actually start ramping up the production and producing, hundreds, if not thousands of them within the first year.
Yeah, and I see, and I'm noticing because of my dealings with you guys, I'm seeing on the news, I'm hearing drones being discussed more and more.
Yep.
People mentioning it more and more. Just news anchors, not occasionally you'll see. Of course, you hear in the news with drone strikes and the military aspect of it, application of it. But I'm kind of have the antennas up, not even aware of it, but my antennas are up whenever I hear drones being discussed in any way outside of military. Especially, I'm really interested to see what people are talking about. And so I'm anticipating we're going to see more and more of like the scientific community, the research R&D, and the environmental people talking about, we use drones to go out and search and to check the oil platforms and to inspect rooftop housing, whatever it is. I mean, all these various things.
Yeah, that's like a lot of those applications already being done with drones. Again, it's just becoming more widespread, more common. And again, a lot of people like to ask, like, are we going to start seeing drones being used in the way that you're talking about? And it's like, if you already look, it's being done at small scale numbers right now.
You're just not hearing about it as much.
And it's just like any technology adoption curve, especially personal computers and automobiles are the two I like to talk about most.
Yeah.
It's literally 5 decades before you see like the introduction of the technology to the last wave of mass adoption.
Yeah. And just like you've said, people think of drones, it's a toy used to play to fly around and do cool stuff with. Like with computers, when they first came out, it was it was something. The cars was for the ultra elite in society to experiment.
Toys for rich people.
Toys for rich people. And now look at it. I mean, if you don't have a car, I mean, if you can't,
you're not really
you're not
active
a part,
member of society.
Absolutely. I mean,
in American society,
first and foremost,
how many people use maybe New York City or whatever?
How many people use computers now? I mean, everybody, man.
Right.
Smartphones. I mean, come on. So your vision is, and I've known you for a while, and I remember when you were about 8 to 10 years ago when you were first starting to talk about this company. And wish we could pan around and get a shot of this.
I'm glad we can't.
Yeah, because people be like, my God, but there's a lot going on here. And you got these stations set up, and you guys it's all laying out all over the place. But
it's coming along, and a big wake up I've had, and like I've understood, to some degree, just how much more improvement we need to make as far as making even this workshop and the way it is now more apt for production, and not just like we've been doing great with what we've had to work with on the R&D front, but where I especially have dropped the ball is not being as disciplined as I need to be, specifically when it comes into setting up the right practices for production. And that's something that, again, it's already like being worked on, but over the next few weeks, over the next few months, and then, carrying on into the years to come, like really like, all right, I need to be serious of like, there's no one else around that is going to really dedicate themselves to making Develop Air here and now, not just a great product that we can demo and show off on our videos or go out and do outreach events with, or, build one or two of, or a dozen of to order, but really like, for a lack of a better way to phrase it, lock in, this is the product, and yes, we're going to continue making iterations and improvements, but as we're making those iterations and improvements, how are we phasing out the old design, the old iteration, phasing in the new design in a more structured way, getting rid of all the old inventory that sometimes gets mixed up. One of the problems that kind of blew me up earlier today when you got here, and I shouldn't have, because someone's trying to help, and then there I go, what the fuck, you fucking and not like exactly that, but that's kind of how it was coming across. And it's like, because we have like our base model Develop Air here, and then we have our Develop Air HP, and then there's one model in between these. So 3-pound payload capacity, 7-pound payload capacity. Now, given this has an extended landing gear, this is not standard, so these taller landing gear can be used on this base model Develop Air as well. But to me, it is clear as day. These are two separate products. One, the motors, that's a big giveaway. But then the different voltage battery, the props also being installed on this one. And someone, not going to name names, was doing a setup or integration of this thermal camera with this Develop Air instead of the Develop Air HP that was supposed to be set up with.
This one is not set up to even...
And, well, he did set it up to...
But it's not designed to be a part of that, right?
Correct, because this is actually going out to a customer with that thermal camera. And so it's like, fuck, this wouldn't happen if like really anyone outside of me like really just cared about understanding each Develop Air model, what the nuances are between them, and like really like just at a quick glance able to say that's a base model Develop Air with an upgraded RTK GPS top cover versus this is a Develop Air HP with an upgraded RTK GPS top cover. And we just don't have the documentation, in place, unless I am literally like any time and every time we get someone new coming in, just going through each Develop Air model with them, going through every sort of detail with it. And so like one of the assignments I've given interns that are doing R&D work with us, beyond their R&D work, pick one of our 4 Develop Air models that we have actually in the market right now, so not the Develop Air Micro, and I want you to become, for lack of a better way, an expert. I want you to know every component that goes into it, how to set it up, how to configure it, how to fly it, and that will hopefully be, a big step for us, and making sure that, hey, yeah, there's cool R&D going on here, but first and foremost, we are making and selling products, and if we can't all like really lock that in our heads, this none of this is going to fly in the way that we want to, longer term.
And I see in your final or the next office that you have when you leave this beautiful, great space you have here. When you get you're going to have, I would envision, a customer walks in and there's like you see in so many of these manufacturing facilities, there's a little office in the front. Yep. It's a showroom. And I see a table or, a display
of each of our models.
Each one going from the micro to the mini to, all the way up.
Base model, XE, HP.
Yeah, and have them all laid out and maybe a little explanation, with
a
each
product
one.
Card.
Yeah, a product card and maybe even a video, a TV on a continual feed showing the various ones, that are being operated and demos on them.
Jim's coming in and getting hired to do our office design.
That's just what I've seen, go into these manufacturers that are making unique things, and there's always a little display area or a showroom up front, and then behind there is where all this, you see all the...
You see the sausage, and then you see the sausage getting made.
Yep. So it's exciting, man. That's really cool. I mean, you got a lot of neat stuff going on. Any things that you can talk about that are on the horizon that you're...
Well, again, I've alluded to this. I'm not going to mention the customer by name, but we got our second ever customer through our website or online presence. So we've started posting.
So they called in.
Literally,
you didn't do anything.
Right.
See, it's incredible. As a sales guy, that's where you want to be because you got to have your salespeople to go out and knock on the doors.
Hey,
right?
Do I got the drone for you?
And you want to keep doing that, but as you do that and you expand and grow, and then it's not at some point. This is part of the swinging at the ball, and then you get a base hit. Right. At some point, somebody calls in. That's where you want to be because now the sales are coming to you.
Yeah.
And when you're shaking the trees to make sales, which is the industry I came up through, you realize how precious it is to have somebody that wants to be a client that you don't have to go out and win them over and convince them because that's so hard. So you want to get
you got to have the big bucks to pay a guy like Jim to go and do that convincing.
Well, yeah.
Been there, done that, not looking to do it anymore. Yeah. But again, that's if we're paying commission, to your point, that's more that we have to charge for develop air, right? And savings.
You ever thought about wanting to, I'm not interested myself, but you ever thought about wanting to have a commission sales structure set up for people that could help get the word out?
So we've done that to some degree, and I've paid out some commissions, but there's just again, from the standpoint of even our production or team, R&D team, not really knowing develop air as a product, no one is able to do it justice to the way that I can. Where, again, we had a guy, Chandler, he closed a deal that was a $15,000 deal for 2 develop air and some accessories, and we ended up paying him a commission on that.
Yep.
But
now let me just stop you real quick. What was the industry?
Education. It was Oklahoma City Community College.
Okay, how did he get that? Was he calling on that?
No, that was really honestly. It was a bad deal, and that was part of my learning, as far as hiring the wrong people, wrong time, sort of deal, not the right compensation structures, and again, inexperience. But to actually answer your question, I went out to University of Texas, Dallas, and was invited out to do a big presentation in one of their auditoriums, and then go out, do a flight demo with Develop Air. One of the guys in the audience is a professor at Oklahoma City Community College, really blown away and impressed by the work that we're doing, what I was talking about, the demo that I gave, and wanted to see how we could work together. Tim Culver, our advisor out of Texas, also an investor, one that invested the $20,000. He then got that guy's contact info, and then facilitated a conversation with us via email. We then got connected to the head of the computer science department by that guy at Oklahoma Community College. And then we worked with her, Sarah Matthew. Chandler, he basically then took on the call. I think I hopped on the first call that we had with them. And then I worked with Chandler. Hey, this is what I think would make sense for them. And he kind of like brought the sale over the finish line, so to speak. And that's not the most clear recollection of it. But
the thing I'm listening for key things, and boom, computer science department at a community college, bang. It seems like that's what you're saying. That the genesis it's from that, right?
Yes.
So that makes me think every community college in this country, the computer science department in community colleges across this country, I don't know how many thousands of them there are.
Could and should have developed.
Automatically, that's boom, now a client list or prospect list for a salesperson to start knocking on the door and shooting a video. And, say, hey, we'd like to talk with any of you guys for, these kinds of ideas. Where'd you go, man? Okay, Jake just quit. He heard what I had to say and he left. So,
I'm listening still.
So, the other thing that I'm listening for is where you have gotten orders, especially if they're calling you. Anybody that calls you and is interested in what you guys have, and this applies, I think, to anybody trying to sell something. As soon as you get, that's an indication of that there are more people like this, right? So you focus in on that group. Now you got a prospect list, and now you can start reaching out with a dedicated sales team. You have Brian with the techno side. You have
Brian with the media side.
Brian with the media side, and
Gerard with electrical.
Gerardo with all these guys they all have their specialties.
Yep.
You ought to have a guy who wants to be a sales
guy,
and especially an entrepreneurially minded guy that likes the commission idea, that doesn't want a pharmaceutical sale. You don't want a pharmaceutical sales rep type guy that wants to work for a company. You want an entrepreneur sales guy, and let that guy come in and become an investor and take on and it's not me, because I've already been down this road. I don't want to do this shit. This is hard work.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But think about that, man. If you had somebody knocking on doors and really pushing.
You're looking for opportunities, reach out, people. Because that is something I am open to. I couldn't find the exact cards, but we've taken these like postcards.
Show the camera.
And have done Made in America and back to school promotions, stuck these in foldable like bifolds, and actually had those printed with mailing addresses from like a local print shop, and like actually mailed those out to community colleges and high schools, all with STEM programs from a list that we had put together. Didn't really work out. Now, given this was like a year, and then again, there's more follow-up. I did follow up through the list as well. Had some conversations. None of them actually turned into anything. But again, I think it was worth the experiment.
Yeah.
And I think now that Develop Air is a little bit further along with in development, we have more content to support. So I think a large part of our content helping is, even though we're showing the good, bad, and the ugly, and trust me, there's a lot of ugly that we're posting out there, it's at least you're seeing we're real people really making an effort with a real product that may not be the most refined, but it's not vaporware, right? And that's a lot of...
It's not smoke and mirrors.
That's vaporware.
And as you guys grow and get more sophisticated, and the
content improves, our product improves.
Content improves, and the quality. Yeah. I'm not saying that your digital quality or your content is shit, but it's
room for improvement.
Absolutely. And as it all improves, you start getting more polish.
Yeah.
But you don't want to present yourself as a Fortune 100 company, right? I mean, because you're not.
No.
And you want to be true to that, because so the fact that you have long hair or whatever and all, I think that's
a part of the appeal.
It shows the genuineness, so to speak, of who you guys are. So I think I applaud you in that. Let me go back to the sales thing, though, because I've got some ideas popping through. Like the real estate community, I don't know how important they are. I know they've done some stuff with you. Law enforcement's another one.
Yep.
Any rep that is selling something, especially if it's his own company, because if he works for another company, they're going to say, no, you can't rep anything else.
Yep.
But if he has his own company and he or she calls on this industry, that would be a great person if they would be willing to add your stuff to their suitcase that they could present, and then they get a commission, and they get future.
We have a roofing company customer that we've done a lot of great work with, loves working with us. We've even demoed Develop Air. But again,
are they using your drones?
No, because again, Develop Air, as implied by the name, a development platform. So unless you are the type of person to want to create your own hardware, develop your own software application, or climb a technical learning curve, Develop Air is not the drone for you. Again, we are working to make the drone that you don't need to climb the technical learning curve. You don't need to be the software developer, engineer, or technician to be able to operate. But that just takes a lot of complexity that we're taking on to make it simple for, anyone using it, right? Where right now there's still a lot of complexity for us to make Develop Air, as well as for the user to be able to get the most out of it, right? So what he is very interested in is our first real drone product called OmniBot Air. And he is convinced
that the roofing company.
Yes, he is convinced he would be able to sell them like hotcakes to other roofing companies and contractors. Yeah. And he was like, I would almost like just get out of the roofing business to start selling.
That might right there might be the genesis of a serious salesperson to help you guys push to the next level.
He and would be a great guy to do that as well.
How old is he?
If he's older than 40, not by much, I would say is like
he
38.
Owns the company?
Yeah, he owns the company.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there are opportunities like that, but even just from the content perspective, right? Like with to your point, quality of content that we're putting out there, the quality of product that we have right now, and we're still getting leads and opportunities and actual sales, is pretty incredible, right? That we're not having to actively go knock down the doors So we've sold 39 Develop Air now. 37 of them were me knocking down doors and hunting opportunities, right? Now the most recent two are farming.
Okay.
Hey,
And see what will happen is right now it's like this, right? This is what you had to go and climb. Yeah, it's going to start to do this, and as soon as it does, one thing that is concerning to me is that what's going to happen when the call comes in and it's a serious, hey, we need all these hundreds or whatever. Yeah. It reminds me of the restaurant guy that owns a restaurant and business is down, and they want to bring more people in, and they invest and put money into the menu and the advertising, and then all of a sudden here comes all these people, and they don't have the staff isn't trained, the service is shitty, and all the money and effort that they spent actually hurts them now because people leave with a bad experience. And in the restaurant business, that'll kill you if people have a bad experience. So you want to be prepared and be ready for a ramp up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're trying to prove out beyond just to the point I was making, Develop Air never being the product that we were wanting to actually bring to market and start selling, as much as we're learning the different payloads to develop for OmniBot Air. So what we're calling mod kits, I don't know, I have a spotlight right here, right? So this isn't as refined as it would need to be to just be plug and play that anyone could use it without any sort of setup or configuration. But technically speaking, right now, you can attach this spotlight to Develop Air, and then, with a few clicks, be able to tilt it up, down, turn it on and off.
To go drive down to check your livestock.
Yeah,
and
whatever the case may
and
be.
Shine lights to view it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to walk in the cold, or you don't have to in the rain,
or hey, you're walking out into the woods and you need a flashlight, but both your hands are full, and now you just have the drone follow you behind you, automatically with the spotlight, right? So it's just a hands-free flashlight at that point.
Man, I'm thinking for deer hunters, here we go. We've got
it's illegal.
You really?
Yeah.
I'm saying you send your drone up, and the drone uses infrared to look for warm bodies walking around, and you can we've got a deer that's
people do it, but it is illegal.
Why is it illegal?
Because it's I don't know
it's
how
unsportsmanlike.
It's but using a rifle that you could be hundreds of yards away, and the deer has no idea.
He shoots a rifle, armor piercing round, or what? Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's been done.
They're not armor piercing. I'm just saying, but it's just
But yeah, like where do you draw the line,
Yeah,
right? It's like, are we going to make everyone bow hunt, because it's unsportsmanlike to, use a rifle? Oh wait, no, it's now too unsportsmanlike to, use a bow. You have to go take on the deer hand-to-hand combat.
Those rifles cost a lot more than the bows, and as long as there's all these companies making all these rifles and they'll have lobbyists and whatnot, bow hunting will never be out. It will never be outlawed to use high-powered rifles on big game, I guarantee you, because there's too much money to be lost. So it comes down to that. So that's one angle on it. But anyway, it's exciting, man. I mean, congrats on all that you guys have accomplished in these. Much
more to go.
Was it 10 years? About 10 years? 9 years?
So let's see. I formally founded iVue in June of 2017 as Drones iVue LLC. So we'll be coming up on our 9th year.
That's great. Yeah.
And so, I like to say, technically speaking, I came up with the name Drones iVue in October of 2016. But again, didn't actually formally found it until June of 2017. So,
you have
going
a press
into
kit,
our
right?
Year?
You have a press kit with all this stuff. So you got all that collateral stuff you got to get in order.
So, and actually,
your presentation materials, video.
Going back to the content, I did recently, and there's just way too much that I've been spraying myself thin, and some of it outside of work, like I told you previously. But I am behind on getting out a couple of articles, and really one big article, like a press release that gives history about iVue as a company, but then more importantly focuses on where we're at right now, what we have in the market in the form of Develop Air, our drone control software, iVue RC, and World's iVue, our drone operating system. And then giving a little bit of a sneak peek preview of what we're working towards, because in our videos, and actually I got connected to a guy that was a part of like Halfway, pretty big rock band, did touring and everything. I think it was Sweet is one of them, and then Heaven and Earth is another one. But this guy now, he was in those bands. He started a company, a drone company, and beyond being like a job board for drone operators to find drone job opportunities, they also do like drone reviews. They have like a whole news organization, and they post articles, and they are very interested, specifically the owner, very interested in posting an article about us.
Yeah.
And then similarly, the largest drone news organization also commented on one of our videos asking me to send them PR.
Yeah.
So
you're a good writer, and so I'm thinking like your dad did an article for some computer magazine or something, and
I think LinkedIn.
He shared it with us. Was it LinkedIn?
Yeah.
But any kind of where you could submit an article to show you as a what's it called, a thought leader.
Yeah.
And you're a thought leader in the drone
THOT.
industry. So you submit articles to wherever to get your name and your company name out. So it's just, man, it's continuous. It's constant.
Always
right?
just getting, and that's why I was talking to you beyond like the test flight video content, putting out our podcast content, chopping that up into shorts. Been pleasantly surprising to watch some of these short segments, from like our very first episodes. I forgot I talked about that so early on. I'm glad I did, but then, it's just more digestible for people to then, hey, I don't want to sit down and listen to an hour and a half of Jacob droning on. But,
go in and grab the highlight
And so, we've had some help. One of our team members has gone in, found an AI program to identify, a lot of the more interesting or compelling segments from the show. And then he goes in and then adds some graphical elements. You've seen them.
So he doesn't have to listen to the whole thing to find the AI goes in and grabs it. That's smart. Wow. It's just, man, this technology is.
It really isn't, because it would be a very and it still is, not a super labor intensive process, but again, it doesn't do itself. Right. And so, it's definitely been great that he's been able to find and then use a tool to really, automate and streamline the process with pretty good, or if not great, results so far. But then also on the content perspective, I think you would appreciate this before we actually get into the tips for success I would like to cover. I've like sung in like some of our test flight videos, like just kind of shits and giggles as like a song comes into my head, you know. And then sometimes I just posted or scheduled one of our shorts from our test flight videos, kind of like the podcast. We're going in, and since like September of last year, we've been posting all of our test flight videos, some of them only a few minutes long, some of them might be an hour long, right? And so we're going in and basically creating the equivalent of what's called a TLDR. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Too long, didn't read. And so we're creating a version of our test flight video series, TLDW, too long, didn't watch. So let's say we post our test flight video that we go record later today. It's 20 minutes. You found that kind of interesting. And you see we have all these other test flight videos that we had previously. You don't want to go and watch every single one of those test flight videos, but you may be interested in watching the 2-minute segment capturing the highlights from each of those videos to kind of catch up to where we're at. And so we started posting those, and one of them using the song title, what is the actual one? I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss, you know, so I changed that. I was made for loving drones, baby, you know, and I got one of the comments in a comment in one of our recent test flight videos, keep rocking. And then one of our interns was there in that video as well. I feel like Sarvish needs to play bass and, you know, drop down the bass line or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you know, one of these days might get an iVue band together, but right now we're more focused on producing drones than music.
Trust
so.
me, yeah. Stick with where you're because you can
it's
go
a time
down.
suck, yeah.
Yeah, it's just
even
it
doing
takes time, takes energy and focus away. You know, the thinner you spread yourself.
Yeah,
we've talked about that,
yeah.
right?
I mean, hell, to your point, even with you know, I produced, I wrote 8 songs or whatever here recently, and then produced, you know, music around them using an AI program. And actually I did for not every song, but I recorded some of my voice, and then just so I could at least get like the beat, the rhythm, you know, the flow, melody, whatever, of like how I wanted the song to sound. And then, you know, it do much better to actually, you know, nail the sound I was looking for. But that was still a time suck. Like, yeah, I would have liked to like improve them and like, you know, put more polish and refinement into, you know, the songs, lyrics, the sound and everything. But it's like, man, I was up to like 5 a.m, you know, just to like, all right, this is it. I'm like 2 weeks into the new year. I was looking to finish up, you know, those songs by the end of last year again, just to be done with it, move on. And it's like, here I am 2 weeks later, still like making some minor tweaks and edits. So I'm just going to do whatever I can, finish it tonight and, you know, not finished per se, but released, right? And it is like, even with those tools, how much of a time suck it is, right? You know, where you would think if you're trying to produce, you know, an album of 8 songs, you know, without an AI music tool, how much longer that would have taken. And it's like, oh my God, you know,
yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that. So, all right. Anything else you want to cover here before?
Thanks for the overview of what you guys are doing. It's exciting. So, there's a bunch of these.
Yeah, well,
we're not going to go through all of them, right?
Well, look at that. Location, the first one.
Location is important, but the people behind the deal are much more important than location. I'd much rather have a really smart, talented guy doing a deal in a not-so-good location than an idiot doing a deal in a great location, because you'll make money every time. Making deals can be tough.
So, I mean, anything that you have to say against that?
I agree. I just agree.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it comes down to people.
Yep, absolutely.
It's the people on the team. It's the vision of the leadership and the attitude and the culture of the company and all.
Right.
It's all that.
Yep. And that's where, you know, I like to think the Henry Ford example I was using as far as building up Atlanta to be, you know, the drone manufacturing hub of the United States and really, ideally, the world, right? We have quite a bit of catching up to do there. But Sam Walton, another great example. Warren Buffett, another great example. Samuel Colt, another great example. It's not, and hell, even the start of Silicon Valley, that's not like it was some booming, you know, place to develop semiconductors back in the 50s. The original guy, I forget his name, that it was the precursor to Fairchild Semiconductor, I think, whatever company that got like a $2 million investment to where all of that area of like just south of San Francisco was like vineyards, right? You know, it was wine country. And all of a sudden, you know, where all like the tech industry is happening out in New York, this guy is like, oh no, I'm going to go build, you know, the highest tech business, you know, this country has ever seen out on the West Coast where there's no infrastructure even built out because his mom is out there.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that.
With the boss.
Dennis Hayes actually shared that with me.
Wherever possible. Negotiation is a very, very delicate art. Sometimes...
Yeah, this I think is fairly straightforward, all about leverage. Talked with one of our podcast guests, Melody. I know you weren't able to make that one, but she actually talked about a situation with dealing with Donald Trump, not directly, but when she was up in New York and one of the projects that he was working on, and how I think she was on the other end of it and basically had no leverage in the deal. And yeah, I should probably recall more specifics, but there's a clip out there if you want to go watch it. A deal is a deal. I think that's fairly straightforward. You know, be a man of your word. If you sign up to do something, you know, you follow through with it.
And another thing I glean from that is when you're negotiating, if you don't have any leverage, then you're not going to win, or you're going to get the poorer end of the deal or the negotiation. You've got to have something to offer.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Hey, we want to play in your facility. We want our band. We want to play. Will you let us play?
Right. Good luck selling.
Versus we have a program, an idea where we can bring people in here and you're going to make money.
Yep.
Now it changes. That's just pop. That's where my head is right now, is with these bands and trying to get work and whatnot, trying to get gigs, etc. And Kevin Bell's my music mentor, great keyboard player and jazz professional, one of the top players in Atlanta, which means one of the top players in the southeastern U.S. because the great players come here because there's more people, more opportunity. He has said from the very beginning, back in Mozart's day, it was about you've got to provide something, you know, where establishment can get something from it. Otherwise, why do they need you?
Right.
And a lot of the musicians, even in Beethoven's day, right, they would play in the theater for the Follies or whatever. They would have like a paper mache sheet made, and they would have sausage frankfurters coming out its ass like it was taking a crap. And everybody it's gaudy, right? People would laugh, and the musicians are down there playing, and
it's entertainment.
It was a gig. They had to do it to make money, but it wasn't exactly, you know, what they wanted to do for the rest of their lives or whatever. Just break away from, I just jumped away for a minute, but it comes back to if you don't have something to offer, then it's kind of pointless to try and negotiate to get anything decent out of it. That's just how I see
not
it.
just with business, with relationships too, right? You know, takes two to tango. Stand up for yourself. Yeah.
You've always got to stand up for yourself.
I forgot what you said exactly here.
Fight for yourself, because basically nobody else is going to fight for you.
I agree.
Yeah. That's literally goes hand in hand with, you know, our iVue values we've covered before. Number one, believe in yourself, right? And hard to stand up for yourself if you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and not exactly the same.
You're not going to accept a contract. If somebody came in here and offered you hey, you get a call, we want to buy X number of units, or, you know, a good order. I
actually have a very specific example of having to stand up for myself.
Let me finish my thought here. It's a good order opportunity, and this is the amount of money that you need for this to be profitable for you, where it's worthwhile. Well, we're going to pay you this much.
Yep.
And you're going to actually probably lose money, but it's going to be good for your resume. It's going to be good for you the next time you go. Question: would you accept that order?
We have turned that down exactly that opportunity where
it's not good. It's not win-win. Right. It's got to be win-win.
And we would have theoretically made a little bit of money, but then, you know, had two problems arisen where we had to replace the components across, you know, the 3 drones that I think it was maybe a 5 drone order all said and done. 3 of them we are going to deliver, but we needed to build out 2 as our own demo models and prototypes, right? So if, we need to support these 3 drone units, that customers are going to have, it's going to be damn near impossible to support them if we don't have a copy of one of them ourselves. So basically we turned it around and said, if you want, these 3 drones, they're going to be at a higher price than what the normal version would be. So basically just imagine this Developer Mini, but they wanted, non-Chinese components in them, right? And so I quoted that out. It would be, instead of, let's say, $1,000, it would be $2,800 per unit, right? And then instead of just buying 3 units, you'd have to buy 5 units though. But 2 of them we would keep to be able to support the customers. But that was something that ultimately I had to walk away from because it didn't really make sense for us.
And let me back up to what I was just saying too, because I got to retrace steps here, because there are times when you're just starting out and you do want to take
taken advantage of.
You want to take a less ideal situation to get your foot in the door. But once you get your foot and once you get established, I think every company you get soon on, if you're focused and you've got your act together and you're doing what you say you're doing, you get to a point where you don't want to continue along. It's like the kid that stays as the kid. No, at some point you got to develop into a man or a woman, and you've got to step up, right?
Yep.
So I just throw that out. Like, it's okay to take the bad gig that doesn't pay well, but you get exposure out of it. Yeah, a little bit of that when you're first starting out. But if you're doing and delivering, you don't want to stay in that space. You want to advance up to where we're getting a full paycheck for what we're doing. All right.
Yeah, no, we started very similarly in the media production space, and then had free events that we would go out and do that turned to tens of thousands of dollars worth of, like you're saying, the whole like spider web, where you just go do right by someone. And I like to look at it, especially when you're saying starting out. The best form of advertising or marketing is going and providing the service or product, for free if you can do it, right? And if they can actually see the value of that product or service, there's no better form of advertising. If like you were to say, I'm going to spend $500, and I wouldn't necessarily give one of these away, but let's just say, hey, we're going to spend $500 on Facebook advertisements to promote our video production work, versus let's go just spend $500 of our time to produce a video for this event. And I think 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get more ROI going and putting the $500 of actual time producing a video for someone than, hey, let's just produce an advertising video and put a $500 advertising spend behind it. And that's actually proven out to work out time and time and time and time and time and time again for us.
Yeah.
But with something similar, won't mention the customer, although they've been mentioned previously, doing an animation video for them. There was like he said, she said about like, oh, well, you were going to get paid out of this money that we were already, paid from someone else. And it's like, no, if we're going to produce this animation video, it's $18,000 and we have not received any of that. And so basically there is a customer trying to sneak a contract in, saying that they had already paid us in full for work to be done that we have not been paid for at all, saying that that money that we were paid in full came from overhead from that Army contract. So I guess you can kind of all piece it together, but no, that's not what we discussed. And, I had to say, hey, I know that's what you could remember. This is what I very clearly remember opposed to that. And this is why I like to have it all in writing, because, he wants to have a call. And I was like, Dennis, I'm more than happy to have a call. But if, we're not in alignment, this is why I like to have it in writing. And so ended up getting it to where we'll walk away, if it because we just can't afford to do it as much as, and it basically turned into I am bending over backwards to try and help you. And it still seems like we're getting fucked here. There's an attempt at trying to fuck us here. Right. But know what you're up against. This is basically don't underestimate, you
Yeah.
know, the person,
Do some
across
research.
the table.
Do some research.
Yeah, do some research. And even after you research, like, don't write them off. And, you know, we talked about this from a soccer standpoint, you know, many moons ago, where you're asking, oh, who's going to win this game? And I mentioned it's 11 guys
11
versus
guys.
11 guys
Yeah.
at the end of the day. You don't know who's having girlfriend problems, who's like, you know, powering through an injury, whose mom just died, or, you know, whatever, right? And they could have been, you know, the difference maker had they not had
And
that
especially
external.
at the pro level, it's at such
Right.
a high level. Little things can
Right.
cause a player, right, to not play at absolute. So have a fight with his
form, yeah.
a fight with his girlfriend or his wife or a spouse.
Yeah.
Goes out on the field and that's bothering him or her. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah,
Little things can make a difference. So
yeah, never count someone out. And the other way to
I didn't
phrase
get a
it,
good
yeah,
night's sleep last night. I ate dinner and it upset my stomach, and it affects at that high level of play, right?
Yeah.
Little things can affect. So
or, you know, the cliche, it's not over until the fat lady sings, right? You know, and it's so easy to just like, and I think he gets into this, you know, like whether it's like fights or deals, like, yeah, not just like knowing what you're up against, but not underestimating them. And there's another point that he made that I'm failing to tie it back to, but we'll probably get there. Know what you're up against. God is in the details. I think that's pretty straightforward.
They
But
see details. If something's wrong, they see it, and it reflects in the price.
you know, the most common phrase is the devil's in the details. It's interesting that he said God is in the details, but
probably for TV.
the bottom line is, yeah, it's the detail that will get you. You know, what was the famous naval battle I remember in the Navy? Brian, did I tell you I was in the Navy for 5 years? There's some naval. I'm drawing a blank. It came down to they were carrying cases, barrels, and the barrel staves weren't on properly, and I think powder or something leaked out. I can't remember, but if it was a little detail like that ultimately, when you look at the problem holistically, look at the big picture of why something bad happens. I'm reading a really good book right now. It's called Under Pressure by a guy named
Under Pressure.
Gavin Locke, and he's a Australian guy. He worked in the military, and he is like an emergency response guy. But the book is a holistic. I'm doing it with the scuba diving stuff. It's a holistic approach, more of an academic study of problems and why people get into problems that they get into when they're diving. And he, instead of looking at just, oh, well, the diver forgot to do this, well, why? And it's just a step back, looking at a whole, it covers training, attitude, team attitude, the ability to speak up for team members when there's an authority figure.
Yep.
If a team member, a lowly team member, sees something's off with the goal of the company, or what we're trying to accomplish here, and they don't speak up because they don't feel it's their place, then things can get missed. And that happens at any team. Something you might enjoy that book. Actually, it's not right now. I don't think you have the time, but
I have, lots of. I just gave a book recommendation. Actually, I gave the same book recommendation to 2 different people, totally different scenarios. Science fiction book called Time Enough for Love by Robert Heinlein. I don't know if you're familiar with like Isaac Asimov.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, so one of the other like great science fiction writers, especially of the same sort of time frame, Robert Heinlein. Actually, CJ is big into Heinlein, and I got another book of Heinlein's from CJ at one point. But I think it's actually his longest novel, which is only like 650 some pages like that. So it's not like a really long read, but very interesting. Talks about the main character, Lazarus the Long, being in the Navy back when it was still a maritime Navy. And then, this guy, he lives to be 2,000 years old, and, basically talks about all of that he's seen in life from his time in the Navy, recounting stories of guys that used to have special tricks in their head for being able to do math quickly, off their feet. And like it really, as I shared with someone I gave the book recommendation, this was back in 2018 when I read it. I was maybe halfway through it, just got this intense realization that Robert Heinlein was writing about the world that he would like to live in rather than, building the world that he would like to live in. And I closed the book, put it down, did eventually come back to it because I was still enthralled by the story. But that's, I think, the real power of books. And it's like, of course, a lot of great information, but, what is it if you don't go out and actually apply it, right?
Yep.
Beggars can't be choosers. You got to believe. I think that's think outside the box.
Let's watch that one.
Have a very, very substantial portion of this building leased before we start construction. Thinking outside of the box is something that is very much of a cliche, but if you really want to be successful, that's how you're going to have to do it. People love the beauty of the building, and they love the location of the building. And I think they like Trump.
Okay. So thinking outside the box, easier said than done.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a career where I go to these conferences and I hear people talking about, you've got to think outside the box and don't be afraid to think outside the box. And then when a rep like me, a sales guy, comes in with a new idea that's outside the box,
that's not tried and true.
It's absolutely frowned upon because it's going to mess up the way they've always done it. And the way that they've always done it is the way they know works. And they don't want, because they don't want to take on the risk of having a problem.
It could work better. It could tank what we already have going for us.
And it could cost people that, like, especially when you're dealing with bureaucrats and people like that. I mean, if they fail at something, it can cost them their job. So it becomes a job security thing. You'll be dealing with some bureaucratic people who are buying your product. I mean, this Army contract, a government contract is a great contract. You think outside the box with that, and you're probably not going to see the
next contract. Next order comes through.
Well, I'm just saying that if it's an entrepreneur, a company person who's got their own money in it, I think you get much more of a interest in, well, let me hear what this idea is. This might be something that will work. But when it's
military,
when it's a government contract, I mean, they're going to do it the way, which makes it easier. It's easier to fulfill the order. Here it is. You give it to them, get your money, take the money and run, right? And we're ready for that next order. Just let us know. We'll take your money again and give you exactly what you want. And
you say you want.
And so that's just a thought.
Yeah, that is, kind of goes hand in hand with, again, Henry Ford adage, probably the type of person that would want a faster horse, right? At the kind of coming of age of the automobile, becoming a mass market platform.
You ask a guy what he would really like, and he says, well, what I'd really like is a faster horse.
Yeah.
What's this car thing?
Right.
I mean, this is a toy for rich people.
And that's where, even within the drone industry, like I went and did a kind of impromptu demo and presentation yesterday at what was Tech Alpharetta, now Tech North Atlanta. There's a startup circle, kind of a diverse crowd. So, some people are more technically savvy than others. Most of them are, technically savvy, maybe in the theory more so than application. And same with like business. There's a lot of business acumen, but from theory and not, so much application, or at least from like the actual, we're building a startup company from the ground up. There's some, like ex-corporate guys that kind of consultants that, like to share all the answers, but, they've never applied them. But in any case, get, of course, feedback like, oh, all the problems for why drones can't take off in the way that, if they don't, I'll die trying, making sure they do, right? Like, even within the drone industry, Roger, who I know you didn't go up to that podcast when we were up in Ohio, the guy that owns the repair shop, he stated, and he talks with everyone in the drone industry, flies out to meet with all the guys in China, flies out to meet with all the guys in Japan, meets with everyone here stateside, like works on all the drone platforms, works with all the law enforcement agencies. I mean, he is as in the drone industry as anyone, and he has never heard anyone in the drone industry talk about drones in the same way that I do, as far as them being platforms for the everyday household, the everyday business, democratizing the world's access to the information, cargo, and people around us, and not just making it all centralized within, large enterprises and public transportation services. Like, imagine that was the way the automobile industry, was formed. And that's what a lot of people are
to that point. I'm going to jump back to something we talked about earlier, and that's using an outside salesperson. If you ever do something like that, especially a person that has their own business, like the roofing guy, and they're calling on other businesses where there might be opportunities for your product, they don't need to become like you. They just need to get the person interested, and then they turn them on to you. Then you go in and,
hey, nice to meet you. Get them excited about our company beyond just like the product.
You share the vision, or so I think it's important that you don't try to train that salesperson. They just need to open the door.
Yeah.
And that's the situation we have, like with Gar Hogan, the guy that's fronting the Seeger band. Is what I do is get somebody interested, and then he comes in,
closes it,
and closes the deal, because he's got knowledge, because he started this thing 5 years ago, and he's been on every gig, he's got the experience and all. So he's the guy. You're that guy. You're the closer, the final guy. You're the closing pitcher.
I'm the Michael Dell.
All right.
Well, I mentioned Michael Dell. That was a reference made. Oh, so you're basically taking, the Dell approach, building to order, which, not the worst, comparison to receive, but it's like, there's elements of that, but also elements of Apple starting the same way with their Apple One, and less so Apple II computers, but, building them to order or building them with off-the-shelf components, but more similar to what we're doing, also building their own operating system, their own software specifically for their own computers, where Dell was like, hey, we're just going to take off-the-shelf components and we're going to save the customer money by selling directly to them instead of through dealers, right? And so they didn't have as much differentiation from a pure product standpoint. They had more differentiation from a business model standpoint. And I like to think we can really kind of do the best of both worlds. Now, ultimately, I wouldn't like to produce, to order. I would just like to have, develop each model locked in. This is, the version that we're producing at least for the next 6 months. And then, we come up with the next few iterations, and now develop is refreshed with, like the latest update, similar to like how these computers or cars are, updated, or Ford might come out with a new F-150, for the 2023 model year, let's say. And then, there's another little bit of improvement that's put into it for the 2024 model year, but by and large, the same truck, right? It's not, and so that's basically, where we're at. But easier to think big.
It's always been.
I think this was good to hear.
Think big. It was always easier for me to attract the money and the capital than it would be if I did a small job someplace that nobody cared about and nobody wanted to finance. For instance, I'm building a new golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey. Frank, how we doing? Good. The site covers over 500 acres.
He gets into this, but one thing I guess I'll jump ahead of, showing up on the construction site still in his suit.
Absolutely.
I kind of do regret getting away from my attitude as always dressing up nice. I remember back in college.
I've never known you to dress up nice.
I think this was like end of high school into like my first couple years of college. Now, it wasn't always like a suit, but it was more along, kind of this where, especially during summer months, and this is still going to be the case, I'll wear ripped jeans or a t-shirt or, whatever. But I used to put people off by being too much dressed for success, like three-piece suit. And so I should have, just like continued. All right, I'm going to put people off, being too over the top, Mr. Business, sort of guy. Like people would ask if I was an attorney or, more traditional,
well, this uniform fits with.
I think so.
With the flavor and character of your company and startup, and
to me, like, and I looked at Theodore Roosevelt the same way. He was notable, for going out and living a life, but always, in like a three-piece suit. And if it got dirty or whatever, I just like, quite frankly, don't have that sort of budget and don't care to do the laundry. Luckily, I have a laundry fairy, as I like to call it. But if I had the means to, wear a nice three-piece suit every day, I would, but like I wear my clothes, you know, I get like marks on them, and like that's disrespectful, especially like to my parents, quite frankly, who have spent the money on those nicer clothes. That like if I were to wear them in the way that I do wear clothes on a normal day-to-day basis, they're not going to be around for too long. So and that goes to show, like, get your own fucking money and start buying your own fucking suits. But, you know, there's drone components and, you know, people and other more pressing items to spend money on. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. Oh, and I was thinking about the comment I got about my hair because Trump was talking about this.
I saw
Yeah.
that.
Well, these people know my hair is real. Yeah. And it's like passion.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah. Dog does not eat dog.
To a businessman or a woman is to surround yourself with talented people who also happen to be loyal. You never know what makes a loyal person. And guess what? If they're not loyal to you one time, don't give them a second chance, because they won't be loyal to you the next time.
So in other words, I learned this the hard way in business. You've heard me say it. Screw me once, shame on you. Screw me twice, shame on me.
Yep.
And that's fair.
Yep.
You let people know that up front, then they'll think twice. If they like what they're doing, they'll think twice about, you know, taking liberties to screw you, or, you know, because they realize and you have to, I think, demonstrate that. You got to be willing to, if you don't
actually walk away.
If you don't prosecute that
Yep.
when it happens, you lose credibility.
Yep.
But if you do, people know, they know what to expect. That's how you set standards.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to stand on them. What we got here?
Be quick, but be careful.
Yeah.
Let's hear it from him.
Ideally, you want quick decision makers. However, you can't make it so quick that the decision's going to be wrong. I'd rather have somebody take their time and come out with a right decision. But the best combination is good decision making quickly.
I also heard my former boss, who started this company, media company, very successful, 45 years or so it went.
Yep.
He was quick to make decisions, and I'll add something to what he just said. He said his theory was, we're not going to sit and analyze. I'm going to make the final decision. I'll make the decision after I feel like I have enough info. If it's the wrong decision, we'll fix it.
Yep.
We'll change it. I'm not going to hold on to my ego and say, oh, this is the decision I made. He admits, okay, it was a wrong, and then we'll change it. But we're going to be quick to where, you know, we are going to make the decision. We're not going to just sit and have committee meeting after committee meeting, essentially, to try and get it exactly right.
I'm butchering it, but Jeff Bezos had a similar sort of philosophy I heard him talk about, where, you know, so many times in Amazon, you know, people are afraid to open the door to new opportunity. And it's like, just if you open it, doesn't work out, just close it. You know, I mean, it's like just as quickly as you make the decision to open the door, you can make the decision to close the door, right? And so it doesn't mean, hey, you open the door and it's not working out. You have to like keep going down, you know, that same path. And so it was another kind of, you know, metaphorical way to talk about, you know, don't be afraid to make decisions quickly, knowing that if you don't make the right decision, it's just as easy to undo it if you also make that decision quickly, right? Don't wait too long to undo it. But yeah, it's easier said than done, right? The whole cliche. How do you get good judgment? You know, use bad judgment. You know, many times, right?
You have to learn.
Yeah.
Every apartment is at least this finished or more.
You need to listen to that right there. If they could only pan the camera, man.
No, this is absolutely one that I agree with. And now I would like to say everyone to some degree has own like areas of lack of organization. Mine very tangibly manifest in components. And now,
but this is organized though in its own way, right? It's not. You know, for you to have this place spotless and be perfectly clean and spotless,
no work would be getting done.
I don't know that it would really help. I mean, it is the way it is,
yeah.
And this isn't probably the way it's going to look in 5-10 years, right?
Or even 5-10 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, and it will. As you grow, you're not going to be able to take this model and apply it as you grow and get bigger and start adding employees and start manufacturing. I mean, you'll have to get organized.
And that's what I was talking about earlier.
You're going to be in for some massive growth yourself personally, I feel, because
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm, again, I've been all about it previously, but obviously huge rooms for improvement. And that's where I was talking about probably my biggest area just with the pursuits I'm taking on in life here and now is organization around manufacturing, around production, because I think we've done a good job. And by and large, I've been the one like kind of wrangling everyone to do the R&D. So we have products that, I can go out and demo and, market and put out there. But as far as like, hey, we have the product, how can we build 10 of them, 100 of them, 1,000 of them? I've really dropped the ball on that, kind of kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
And
you're going to have to face
right,
it.
And
it's coming.
get ahead of it, right? And then, hey, now all of a sudden, hey, we're not ready to produce an order of 100 or 400, but here's exactly what we need, and here's how we can do it now in 4 weeks instead of 4 months. And that's what I've been, as much as I possibly can, wrapping my head around and then acting on, and starting over in the corner there, working our way down, starting to manifest it in our workspace and having different stations, more of like an assembly line sort of structure to our production. But as you can very much see, a work in progress.
Yeah.
The building is in fantastic shape. If I lack or substantial, when people don't adhere to a budget, it's only hard on budget.
Okay.
When people don't adhere to a budget, it's only trouble.
You're 2,095,000.
Right.
Can you get it down to 1,800,000?
$1,800,000.
1,800,000.
People go over budget, they're in big trouble.
We have a deal.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So yeah, the budget, I think that's one that obviously we've, made some errors financially, as a company, me leading those charges in pretty much every case. However, I think we've also been forced to, have a better fiscal understanding than, while like the Silicon Valley companies, they go raise, millions of dollars, sometimes with little more, if anything, more than an idea. And they don't develop that same sort of, financial fortitude, for lack of a better way to put it, because, they haven't had to, right?
Yeah.
And so there's always stories like startups, they go buy, a nice new office space, a $30,000, espresso machine, coffee. And it's like, I've heard those stories and it's like, how the fuck are these people getting funded? Yet, we've, made, $800,000 almost, and raised $270,000. Again, have we made every right decision? Absolutely not. But I like to think we've shown that we can make money with no money. Imagine how much money we can make with money to work with.
Yeah.
And the case that it takes money to make money.
The word leadership is always hard to define because you see so many different people that are so different, and they're great leaders. Hello, everybody. But the quality of a great leader that I've seen that's common to all is respect.
There's nothing like real estate.
All right.
It beats paper stock certificates, and I think it's a great market.
People have to respect you, or you cannot be a leader.
Hey, no, folks.
Again, I'm screwed. Obviously, still room for improvement for me there as well. Yeah.
No, it's you're respected, and you're. I'll just say, your passion is one of the main, I feel, for your age and where you are. The passion is there. You've got that. And if you don't have that,
Yeah,
I bet he would say
that was one of them.
Yeah, and
passion.
he would probably say, if you don't have passion, then all
You're
these
not gonna
other
make
things,
it.
you're not
Yep.
going to get respected. If it's going to show. You
Yep.
got to have the passion. It's not guaranteed you'll be respected, but
Right.
man,
That's
you
almost a prerequisite.
I think
yeah.
that's probably, Tony Robbins. I don't know if you know that
Yeah, of
motivational
course.
guy, right?
Yeah,
I've read some of his stuff and listened to some of his tapes, and he's like, I think the most important thing in life is passion. He's like, the title of his series that he came out with in the late 80s, early 90s was Live with Passion. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I listened to some of his tapes.
I agree.
And he's all about Tony Robbins is the main thing he's about is passion. And his point is that if people have passion, you'll be happier in life and you'll have a better life if you live with passion. I agree.
I look at it like just slightly different verbiage. Living and maximizing purpose and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And, that's, you're going to be passionate about, what is purposeful.
Yeah.
And
how many times have you heard people talk about, like, for giving advice to kids in college and all, find something you're passionate about, and then let that guide you as to where you get your degree and what you'd go into school. If you hate, you don't like computers at all, but you see there are a lot of job opportunities in computing,
you're not going to
software,
do too well.
And you're good at math or whatever, okay, but if you don't really have passion for it, it's not going to be fulfilling. So find something that you're really passionate about.
I agree.
And go do so. I'm in the scuba diving stuff right now, and I'm seeing a lot of people who are later in life and whatnot, and their passion is underwater world. And so now they're getting involved in jobs and things like that allow them to dive a lot. And it's kind of cool, to find some. I like music so much. What am I doing now? I'm playing music full time, and I have passion for it. And that's why I, continue to do it, and I enjoy it. So anyway.
Price it right. This, of course, in business, always get told you need to raise prices, but, oftentimes, especially for mass-produced products, price is a very important factor. And, it's oftentimes when something's commoditized, right, it's a race to the bottom. And then if you have like a value-added service or whatever, more of the consultant business types will tell you, oh, you need to raise your prices. You need to raise your prices and, increase the profit margin. But it, I think, goes to, is this a volume business or is this something like real estate, which is more Trump's world? There's only one of that house. There's only one of that building, right? There's only one of that location. So he makes the point, you can't price it too high. You can't price it too low. I forget the exact reasons.
You gotta price it right.
Yeah.
Bill, we just bought the rest of the Sun Times site, so we own 100% of it now. The marketplace is totally brilliant. If you price something a little bit high, all of a sudden, they don't buy. If you price it a little bit low, the marketplace just comes and eats it alive. You have to find the right price. And if you don't, big trouble.
If you price it too low, you leave money on the table, quote unquote.
Okay, good luck, Bill. Bye. When I
Know your
build
market.
a building,
You got
or when
that.
I build a golf course or a club or whatever I do, you always have to go after a certain audience.
Number one paperback is The Art of the Deal, and the number one business book is How to Get Rich.
You have to be able to pinpoint your market. And if you can't pinpoint the market...
He is an entertainer, no doubt about it.
Lindsey Graham said he's half Ronald Reagan and half P.T. Barnum. He absolutely is.
Okay,
He'll
look
go
at the
down
building.
in
Look at
history.
this.
He's going to go down. I mean, when you become, I've said this before, I'll be brief. When you become president of the United States, you're going to get a book written about you, at least one, right?
Dozens.
He's going to have as many books written about him as
any
Abraham
other.
Lincoln,
Yeah.
probably. I mean, and, and
Yeah.
FDR and Thomas Jefferson. He
The most
really
notable.
is, man. He is, like him or love him, or hate him or whatever.
Right.
Hate him or love him, you can't deny it. He is a character. He is a character.
Absolutely. Yeah. And,
He's pissed off everybody.
love him or hate him, we talked about this, he can stand up to, fire
he's proven
as
himself.
good as anyone,
He's
right?
proven
Yeah.
himself.
Stand up for yourself, right?
He's
Get
proven
it
it.
painted, get it finished. I want to get rid of those air conditioning louvers, especially the ones...
Sell
that
your
are
ideas
top.
was
If
the
you
one.
think an idea is really good, then just don't stop. Go after it. Keep selling it, because some of the greatest ideas were ideas that nobody wanted.
So it's going to be painted like the...
And I think that one is very crucial for, a lot of people getting started in business, including myself, where, oh my God, I have this brilliant idea. We're going to go map the world with drones. We're going to build our own software platform like Google Maps to be able to not just control all the drones, but be able to like ingest all of the data, cultivate all the data or consolidate all the data into the platform. We're going to make the drones themselves. We're going to offer drone-based services or media services that can also be used to update the world map with content. And, talking about any one of those ideas, I was a little apprehensive of like going way back, 2017, maybe even late 2016. It's like, oh my God, I can't tell anyone these ideas. They're going to take them and steal them. And not to the same point that he's getting at, but very similar, that a lot of people are so apprehensive to talk about their ideas because, they're afraid someone else is going to poo-poo it, or more often than not, they're like, oh no, they're going to take my idea and run with it. But most people don't run with their own ideas, right? Because they have their own mental blocks or whatever that gets in the way. But I couldn't agree anymore that, it all starts with like evangelization, none of this would exist if I didn't have, the courage, if you will, to just
I know you like Ford.
Yeah.
You like Henry Ford. You talk about that. What you're talking about applies exactly. He was denied. He went before a bureaucratic group somewhere. I can't remember where.
Yeah.
They denied him the right to produce cars because they said, well, cars are there's a toy for the elite.
Yep.
And he was like, no, this is for I see this as for the common man. Everybody can have one of these things.
Yep.
And he was denied it. And it took him several years before he finally got the right to mass produce. Then he created this thing called the assembly line, which we still use all over the world today to manufacture things.
And, before that, and I think he's probably one of the most underrated entrepreneurs, businessmen of history, Samuel Colt.
You think Colt.
Samuel Colt.
I was going to say, you think
Henry Ford is not underrated, no. I think very properly rated by a lot of people as one of the most influential, successful entrepreneurs.
Apparently, I'm sorry to stay on Ford for a second, but his mind was so focused on the mission. He was called forth in front of some panel to testify, and they tried to trip him up by asking him questions about the American Revolution, and he was thinking the War of 1812, something like that. They were trying to show that he was insane, that he was lacking in mental facility, and that these ideas he had were crazy. Yep. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard, we've talked a little bit about it. I don't know the details of that trial, but I do have heard him and then Walt Disney have both notably had bad mental breaks in their history to where is this going to pan out? And Samuel Colt, same thing. From the time he was 18 or 19, much like me, working on the idea of, what was considered a magic gun, right? A gun that can actually shoot multiple shots without having to be reloaded in between. Now, there were some rudimentary revolvers or multi-shot guns, none that were really considered reliable as the one that you would want to use, none that could be mass produced. Like every other product pretty much at the time, it was one off, like furniture, it's not like you're just going down to the furniture store and buying the same chair that anyone else with $100 or $500 could go buy. You're getting a custom gun, a custom furniture piece made, right? And that was his he didn't invent the revolver as a lot of people like to give him credit for, never claimed that he did. He just figured out how to make, what most people thought impossible, kind of like in the same, oh no, you can't have a multi-purpose drone. You have to have a drone that does one specific purpose and just go focus on that. And it's like, all right, then a multi-shot gun is also just as impossible, I guess until Samuel Colt proved otherwise, right? And again, not just that it was possible, but it was mass producible in a way that, no guns were being produced at, let alone, this magical multi-shot gun. And he was working on that from 18, 19, even younger. He was working on a ship, not like a pirate ship, but some old, style wooden ship in cabin quarters.
Pirate ship.
Yeah. But it was some sort of trading vessel or something along the lines, and he worked under a captain, and that he was explaining this idea too of the revolver that he wanted to make, and he ended up working with someone on the ship that had more mechanical skills than he had to produce some wooden pieces to prove it. And I mean, it was not until I think he was 51 that he had everything line up to where he was able to start really mass producing revolvers. And he had some short runs of making dozens or maybe even hundreds of units, here and there over the period, but just trying to get the right investor, the right order, actually getting the right product built in place to then be able to deliver on it took, 3 decades, just about. And then he ended up dying 5 years, into Colt really taking off, and he died, him and his wife, the most, wealthy couple in America, you know, but I mean, it's not like, hey, I'm going to go make this revolver that he had in his head from the time he was 19, and then, you know, a couple years later, here it is. I mean, it was literally, he dedicated his life to, you know, bringing that to being. And it's just not a story that you ever hear about because, you know, of course, it was sold as a military product, but it was also a consumer product. It's just we don't think of guns as consumer products really in the traditional sense anymore, right? But that would have been, you know, the precursor to a car, a drone, a gun, or a computer. How about today?
To represent Donald Trump and the Trump Organization,
You got it.
has to be driven.
Yeah,
Maybe
you spend most of your time playing video games. You're really not into this. Yeah, right.
Yeah. No.
This is it. This is your life.
I called someone out for that. Yep.
What's this?
Control your contractor, that they'll try to fuck you. Yeah, that's...
well, you've already talked a little bit about...
Yeah. And
believe in yourself.
Health.
You've got that. I mean, that's something that...
Literally for everybody. I think number one, believe in your fucking self. And we covered the song with Peggy as well, the Arthur theme song, Believe in Yourself, or That's the Place to Start. It was a Ziggy Marley song, Bob Marley's son that wrote it. And I think really that is one of the most powerful messages. And there's more to the song than that as well. Like open up your eyes, open up your ears, basically listen to what you can see and experience, observe around you. Don't believe in everything that's being forced, like, and pushed to you. And like, you know, in the news and the media, it's so easy to develop a negative, you know, outlook on life and like, oh, it's not even worth trying.
It's easier now than ever before with all the influences we have, right? That's affecting people's attitudes. And
you can go from car crash to someone getting ran over to, you know, a beating in the streets to like
the Epstein
just nonstop.
files to the, it's just constant, man. It's just so, I have to stop watching the news after a while because it's just...
I just watched press conferences, like, so I'm hearing news straight from, and then long form podcasts. That's literally my media diet. Otherwise, I don't have time, you know.
What's this? Never lose your God.
Never lose your cool.
Oh, you're cool.
Yeah. This and the organization, probably from all of these, is like where I struggle the most.
I'm reading a book on George Washington. I'm taking my time with it, but it's written by, it's Michael not Michael Beschloss.
Ron Chernow?
Yeah, Ron Chernow. And he's my favorite nonfiction writer, man. Ron Chernow. He wrote Truman. I read the Truman book. He wrote John Adams. No, David McCullough, I think, wrote John Adams. I got to read that one. I haven't yet. But Washington, I'll just real quick. From his very earliest times, he and his mother was supposedly influential in, because she prodded him.
Mother.
She kind of prodded him and to piss him off and whatnot. And he learned keep your cool. And he was all battlefield commanders have this skill or have this ability that they can stand in the fire. Remember the bad example, but highly respected Nazi officer Erwin Rommel. Was a great frontline military commander, and I haven't read any books on him, but I know a friend who's read a lot on him, and he would stand, and while the fire was going on, and he would just be directing, telling people, all right, give me this over here, and a guy gets killed right beside him. He says, get me another aide up here, and just unafraid, complete control, and keeping his calm and cool.
Yep.
And it's hard. I'm not good at it.
You know, it's funny.
I've
actually been commended by team members for exhibiting this trait, but I know in my heart of hearts, this is one of the areas I struggle with. I have I
think everyone does. It's hard. It's hard. There are few people really are natural at it. Yeah. You know, the special forces guys, I think one of the main things that they are, my brother shoots pistols with some retired military guys, and one of them is a retired Green Beret. And he was an explosive expert. That was his specialty. But I asked him about the testing. He said they've got the testing is so exact now that no one slips through the cracks.
Yep.
And the psychological testing for special forces is where you have to have the right kind of psychological up mentality, and it's mainly how to handle pressure and how to remain calm in a tough situation.
Right.
Few people. It's not a normal. I mean, Patton had it.
Yep.
William Tecumseh Sherman, I remember from University of South Carolina, course on South Carolina history. We're talking about Sherman's march to the sea when he came through and destroyed a lot of South Carolina.
Yeah, thanks, Sherman.
And someone made a crack about Sherman, and I just remember Walter Edgar, Dr. Edgar, I think he's professor emeritus now, but he's a great writer. He's written at the time, this is in the late 80s, he'd written 18 books, 13 or 14 books, but I don't know how many he's got now. But he said, and I remember, and I'll even do his accent, he said, let me tell you something, William Tecumseh Sherman wouldn't be afraid of the devil himself. So he was a very strong, you know.
Just comfortable in his own skin,
Very, and able to keep his cool in all situations. Washington was the same way.
And it sounds like, again, when we were talking about how do you get to a point of employing good judgment, use bad judgment many of times. And it sounds like kind of Washington got that early, training, from his mom. So later in life, he was just always known for keeping cool, calm, and collected. I clearly did not get enough of that growing up. But again, I laughed, and I told my most recently when I was told it by one of our team members, he was like, I could never even imagine, what you would look like being heated or, losing your cool. And I was laughing because I know and I've gotten a lot better at it, but I also had some slip ups, somewhat recently, have a crack in my, screen, infotainment screen on the Subaru. It wasn't responding, and I gave it a smack a little too hard, and I shouldn't be laughing. But,
well, I mean, that is less. It's not as important as passion, I don't feel, and being respected and all. I mean, Henry Ford went crazy a few times, didn't he? And he got all pissed off and
literally, Walt Disney went what we would consider schizophrenic, totally AWOL sort of psycho when he was 30, 31.
And who was the guy out in Vegas that Howard Hughes? He had, I think, mental illness.
And again, Theodore Roosevelt, and this is one, and I would love, and it's going to have to be further down the road when I can set aside some time to actually write it in the way that I would want to tell the story. Doing a 3-part biopic for Theodore Roosevelt, covering his early life, his childhood predominantly, maybe up through his college years, and then from his college years through his presidency, and then maybe even a little bit of cut his presidency in half through his end of life. But one thing that really stood out to me in the story that I don't relate it to in a way that's this abhorrent, but just holy shit, this guy became president, and the one that is so revered on Mount Rushmore, this larger than life figure, when he was 14 years old, as I was talking about, revolvers, used to just be a consumer good that 13, 14-year-old boys, would have and walk around, just as you would walk around the street with, or ride down the street with your bicycle, today in a suburban neighborhood. And he had, anger issues, temper tantrums, not like I have. And I forgot what was the impetus of it, but it wasn't anything to do with his neighbor or his neighbor's dog, but ended up shooting his neighbor's dog when he was 13, 14. And it's could you imagine if that happened to anyone, nowadays? I guess something similar happened with Kristi Noem, and, people got all up in arms about that, but it was something like a farm dog that she had that had to be put down, and, instead of
I don't know the whole story on
euthanasia or something.
I know it made the national news, and especially on the.
But again, imagine Trump or even Obama, if they found out when they were 14 years old that they killed their neighbor's dog, just because of a temper tantrum, that to me, especially from a movie, is just a side of such a great figure that humanizes him, maybe not in the best way, but it's people are very complex, right? And, it just shows a different side that I think it would be interesting to see hit the big screen. Yeah, let's see what he says about never losing your cool. And, you know, he says this. I think he does a great job, as we've talked about. But recently, someone was calling him like a pedo protector, and he was like, "Fuck you," and flipped him off. And it's like,
did he
wow.
flip him off?
Yeah.
Amazing for Trump. Our last book, How to Get Rich, was so successful.
You should never lose
The
your
most
cool
successful.
unless it's an act. If you're acting that you're angry
It's always an act, folks.
because you want to scare your employees or you want to do something to get them to work harder, never lose your cool unless you have a reason for doing so.
And I promise you that
I have lots of reasons.
will not be the picture we use, because I hate it. This is the first time I've seen this one.
Form your own opinion.
This, I think, is huge, especially, in my position, or again, just from a leadership position. You're talking about being a thought leader where, first and foremost, the content that I find most important for us is our test flight videos. And you see some of me out there. I do speak occasionally beyond just our products and about my thoughts and opinions. But that's why I find this podcast so important. So, not that I always have the most well thought out opinions on any matter, let alone every matter, but at least I am putting myself out there. I am trying to challenge myself, bringing on people that might have differing views of opinions and working to improve my own, right? And not like, hey, that's a good opinion, let me make it my own, but coming up with my own based off of the input, of people around me. Let's just kind of fast forward, speed run. Know your enemy. Anything you have to say about that? Winning is everything. That's a whole episode, I feel. Respect comes from winning.
What I'm hearing with all this is competitiveness.
Yep.
Not everybody's, we're all different, and not everybody's ultra competitive. And that's a plus and minus. That's just human. That's part of being human. If you're born with a competitive nature, in our culture, you're set up probably for more success, or it'll be easier. Your life will be easier because you won't be competing as much to win. But he's a very competitive guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a very competitive guy, and I mean, my God.
So maybe we can wrap it up at this. There's more if you guys want to go finish up the rest of them. I think there's 61, 63 of them, so we're about halfway through. I think you hit on a real important point where success is not everything in life in the way that, of course, society likes to portray success. Fame, money, power,
Influence.
Influence.
All that.
Yeah. It's, again, to me, purpose and fulfillment. And now if you're into, like, whatever your purpose and fulfillment might result in money, fame, influence, whatever, but it should, to me, never be about, hey, let me go seek out success in the form of those outputs. Let me focus more on, like what Einstein would talk about, and Elon Musk has even talked about, Jeff Bezos and other. It's think about the value, right? And that is kind of tied more into the input than the output, where, Trump was saying winning comes from results, I think is what he was saying. Yes, results are important, and like I think Trump talks about like money being a good like scorecard of sorts, right? But it's not the end all be all scorecard, right? Especially like from a perspective of providing value.
Here's another way for me to ask. I'm going to ask you
Yeah.
this question. And this is a problem I have with so many people that don't dislike Trump when they say, he's doing it for the money.
Yep.
Do you think Donald Trump is who he is and is doing what he's doing so he can get richer and get more money? I mean,
No. And if
he
you
likes money for sure, and money is important to him, but there's so much more to this guy than just trying to make a buck.
And I would
as I
say,
see
yeah, if you were like, up until recently, he's failed by and large. Now, again, has he got access to lots of money? Yes, but for an overwhelming majority of his, at least public career, he was hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars in personal debt. And so, and And now people will say, oh yeah, that just goes to show like he's a bad guy, you know, but it's like, no, if you were really such a bad guy, he would default on all of that debt, and he would start from zero and wipe his hands clean and say, your problem, not mine. Now, given that would pretty much destroy all of his future opportunity, but that is, strictly speaking, something that he could have done, you know, at any point. And he's now did talk about that.
He could have thrown in the towel. He
Right.
could have thrown in the towel.
And he's talked about that. Well, bankers can either give me, you know, more money so I can, you know, attempt to, you know, make more money, or, you know, just cut their losses. And, you know, that's hundreds of millions of dollars of losses. And who's going to do that, right? So I guess we can wrap it up here. Success is not the end all be all, at least in the way society frames it. I think as cliche as it is, focus on value, focus on individual purpose and fulfillment. And I think your own idea of success will manifest whatever that may actually be.
And live with passion for what you want and what's important to you. And
don't let anyone else get in the way other than yourself, and ideally not even yourself. Yeah.
All right. Well, congrats again on all that you guys have accomplished. And so it's this time, and I'll be checking back in with you.
Yeah. If not jam nights, our next on assignment, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for watching. And I guess a clap to send it out.
On that, yeah, good job. Enjoyed it.